Farsim to mute করে আছে for some reason. Didn't you ask him to start?
না ম্যাম ঠিক আছে, he started
সবাই
the
ওয়েট
recording.
করছে।
Are we live yet?
Yep, we are in live.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum everyone, and a very good evening to all of you, and good morning to all the viewers who are watching from different parts of the world. This is Upama Ahmed welcoming you all in the episode 2 of today's webinar titled Combating Gender-Based Violence in the Corporate World and Executing WECOMMIT by UN Women. This series of webinar is organized jointly by Evolution360 and Manusher Jonno Foundation. This is Upama Ahmed, the founder of Evolution360 and Empower Women UN Women Champion 2016. And throughout today's session, I'll be hosting the webinar today. In the very beginning, I would actually like you to show a short video clip about the WeCommit campaign and a little bit about Evolution360. So that was a very short clip, and I hope you all are aware that Evolution360 is an ally from Bangladesh of the UN Women's WeCommit campaign. And we will definitely get to know a lot about this campaign throughout this webinar session. But before that, I would take the privilege to introduce our honorable guests of today's session. So today we have with us as our chief guest, Ms. Shoko Ishikawa, country representative of UN Women Bangladesh. As our guest of honor, we have Shaheen Anam, executive director, Manusher Jonno Foundation. And as our honorable panelists, we have Sonia Bashir Kabir, founder SBK Tech Ventures, M. Khorshid Anwar, head of retail and SME banking, Eastern Bank Limited, and Farzana Chaudhary, MD and CEO, Green Delta Insurance Company. So Evolution360 and Manusher Jonno Foundation welcomes all our honorable panelists today and thanks them for finding their precious time in today's session. So on occasion of 16 days of activism, we have launched this series. And before going into the detail, let me give you a brief intro about WeCommit and Evolution360. So Evolution360 is a youth-led community organization, which is a non-profit organization established in 2016, which focuses on youth empowerment and skill development with a vision to create a gender-equal world with active youth participation. Having over 500 youth volunteers, we are replicating the He for She campaign all over Bangladesh, teaching young girls self-defense and young boys consent and attitude towards opposite gender, with a view to reduce gender-based violence in Bangladesh. And besides our various campaigns and skill development session, we are mobilizing the youth community of Bangladesh in SDG implementation. And now let's come to the main campaign, which is WeCommit campaign. The WeCommit campaign, as you all know, is a call to action for private sector companies, enterprises, and employers, organizations, stock exchanges, pension funds, and wealth management funds with an aim to sign and deepen the implementation of the women's empowerment principles. WeCommit launches as the world is demanding more equality and justice, and as consumers and workers are calling for more value-based decision-making and social values of anti-racism, non-discrimination, and gender equality. With that being said, I would like to recognize and give the floor to our honorable chief guest today, Ms. Shoko Ishikawa, country representative from UN Women Bangladesh. Shoko, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, the floor goes to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, and a very good evening to everybody. I'm amazed by the energy of the youth of Bangladesh. I think Bangladesh never stops. Weekend doesn't matter, and you just are always eager to learn and debate and try and find solutions. So thank you for inviting me to this session today. As you mentioned, 16 days of activism. We have been doing a lot of activities. I think each of our organizations have been using these 16 days to try and promote more actions to end gender-based violence. The 16 days of activism itself, as you know, has ended on the 10th of December, 2 days ago. But I appreciate that we continue this kind of conversations, because we have to really make it an everyday dialogue. And so today's effort, particularly to talk about the responsibility of the corporate sector, what corporate sector can do to end violence against women, is one dimension within many of the different actors that need to take action. As UN Women, as it has been mentioned, we have a tool that is called the Women's Empowerment Principles. This was something that was developed and launched in 2010, in fact, together with the Global Compact. So it's a joint effort to try and promote gender equality and women's empowerment in the corporate sector. And for example, Green Delta Insurance is one of the WEPS companies in Bangladesh. There are 14 companies in Bangladesh that has signed on to the Women's Empowerment Principles. And in specific, there are 7 core principles that the WEPS promotes. One of it is top-level leadership. Therefore, the commitment from the CEO level to take action and take measures in the company to make gender equality and women's empowerment a top strategic priority within the company. So that means how the company's culture is gender responsive, how the business practice and policies are gender responsive. It also means how, for example, your supply chain practices are also promoting women's empowerment, or if you have a corporate social responsibility sort of activities, are you reaching out to communities of disempowered women and working with those women? So number 1 of the principle is about corporate level leadership on gender equality. Number 2 is about treating all women and men fairly at work without discrimination. Therefore, this relates to talent acquisition, employee retention, making sure that there are women in the management, there is equal pay for equal value of work, so on and so forth. Number 3 is about ensuring employee health, well-being, and safety. And this is where issues like sexual harassment and violence and exploitation in the workplace comes in. What kind of measures do the companies have in place to prevent sexual harassment, to encourage reporting of sexual harassment, build awareness in the companies around sexual harassment, as well as other forms of violence against women. Number 4 is about education and training for career advancement. So here comes ensuring that women and men have equal opportunities for career advancement and can access the training that is necessary for the women to be able to climb the corporate ladder. Number 5 is around supply chains. As I mentioned, there are ways that enterprises can ensure that the smaller women-led businesses are part of their supply chain, part of their value chain. You can look at your procurement practices to make sure that the business as an overall is encouraging more women's participation in the economy. Number 6 of the principle is about supporting community initiatives and advocacy for women's empowerment. And then the final principle is about making sure that you report, you measure what you are doing, and being transparent about the efforts that you are making. So these 7 principles broadly are about women's empowerment and gender equality, but so particularly we want to be talking about violence against women in the workplace and how the companies could take action to ensure that the employees have a safe working environment, employees are supported, whether that's sexual harassment or domestic violence that they may be facing. I think we've been hearing a lot in the past months around the increasing prevalence of violence against women, and organizations like Manusha Jona Foundation has been collecting diligently information on how COVID in particular has impacted the rise in violence against women. And I think that we'll hear from Shaheen about those issues. But I think that the fact that COVID has pushed people to work from home itself, we need to keep in mind that the women who were able to come to work, for some of them, that was a relief from the domestic violence that they were facing. But now they were told to stay at home, work from home. What measures have companies taken to make sure that women are able to continue to work from home? I think that's a big question. Within the UN, we had our own reflection also. We've put out guidance in terms of domestic violence. We tried to organize sessions for staff for awareness raising around domestic violence. We also have distributed information about services that are accessible. So what are the helplines and the counseling services that UN employees can access if they are facing violence at homes? And I hope that similar measures have been taken by companies that had to close their doors and ask for their employees to work from home. We have also, as UN Women, undertaken some research in the past years about what are some of the corporate good practices when it comes to addressing sexual harassment as well as domestic violence. I think the conversations around sexual harassment globally is more advanced than what companies have responsibility of doing in terms of if their employees are facing domestic violence. But now ILO adopted a convention, Convention 190, I think last year, which is about sexual harassment and violence in the workplace. And Convention 190 actually also talks about the responsibility of the companies to support employees that are facing domestic violence. So there are both dimensions, and I hope that we could hear from our panelists some of the efforts that they are taking and learn on how we could be doing better in terms of propelling more corporate action, as well as what are some of the policy measures that maybe we need to further promote, because the government actually does not have a sexual harassment law yet. There is a High Court directive on sexual harassment, which also is being poorly implemented. So I think UN, as well as the NGOs, we are all working in collaboration to try and advocate for sexual harassment legislation, taking it beyond just a High Court directive. So these are also initiatives that we would like to see the corporate sector join and try and make sure that women have an environment where they can feel safe coming to work, can contribute more to the economy, and fulfill their dreams. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your valuable insights. We definitely got to know about the WEP, Women Empowerment Principles, and also the importance of this year's 16 days of activism, because it's way more important and way more different than the other years because of the global pandemic situation. And definitely we'll discuss more about this situation and on the topic in our further discussions. And at this moment, I would be delighted to announce that this episode of today is we have our digital TV partner. We have Hernet TV as a digital TV partner, which is Asia's first women's well-being TV channel, and also Colors as a media partner. So thank you for featuring this webinar series. With that being said, I would now give the floor to our guest of honor, Shahin Anam, Executive Director, Manusher Jonno Foundation. With much gratefulness towards Manusher Jonno Foundation, I have been seeing very closely how much they have been doing in spite of the global pandemic. And in 16 days of activism or Women's Day throughout the year, Manusher Jonno Foundation have been creating a major change in this sector. I'm sure Shahinana Mappa will actually enlighten everyone about their activities today.
Thank
Appa.
you.
Yes.
Thank you, Upama. Thank you for organizing this with us. And my grateful thanks to the chief guest, Shoko, who's also a good friend, and the panelists. And I'm also very, very eager to hear from them. Shoko has kind of shared with us the 7 principles, which are absolutely on target. These are exactly the principles that all organizations must kind of integrate it in their everyday work into their organizations and make it a policy as soon as possible. Now, it is much easier said than done because there are so many obstacles. But I think that if everybody has the right attitude, and the fundamental thing is to believe in gender equality. And that I find is the major hurdle, that to really believe in the equality of men and women, and that they have equal rights at home, in the workplace, and in public places. So I would start by saying that working in the development sector for so many years as a human rights and women's rights activist and a development worker, we have always worked the private sector and the development sector in parallel, going 2 streams and not coming together. There was a time that the development whole sector used to say that all the private sector just thinks about profit and nothing else. And the private sector used to think that, oh, these do-gooders, what do they do? We really don't understand what they do. However, things have changed a lot. And the development sector has realized that the private sector is also doing development work, important development work, such as creating job for people, which is a fundamental human rights of all, to be able to pursue their ambitions and their dreams the way they want to, both men and women. So I think this collaboration between the development sector or the NGO sector and the private sector has evolved over the years. And now we see a lot of collaboration between them, a lot of learning from each other, and a lot of respect for each other's work. So that is extremely important. When we push for any policy reforms, which the government sometimes listens, sometimes doesn't. It's a very hard push. For example, the enactment of the Domestic Violence Act, or the enactment of the Anti-Discrimination Act, which is still pending, or the law that the High Court ruling that Shoko was talking about on sexual harassment. We want all organizations to also integrate it into their policy, into their own organizations, right? So the one on sexual harassment, we are pushing for the enactment as a law, but there's a High Court ruling that every organization which has a certain number of staff must have a sexual harassment committee. And we have been lobbying for all organizations, even if there's no law, but because there's a High Court ruling, to then bring it into into their organization and abide by those. Now, many organizations, I would say, have already done it. Many factories now have gender policies. Many organizations have gender policies, which has made it easier for women to work. Now, the fundamental right of a woman to go to work in safety and security and feel comfortable throughout the day. The principles that Shoko talked about is, of course, extremely important, like equal pay for equal work. But if a woman is in fear of when she goes to work, that she might be harassed, even not physically, but verbally, even in looks, even in gestures, that is a very traumatic experience for women. So our work has been around trying to create an environment for women where they feel safe. Now, I would, Shoko mentioned the pandemic, and I would like to say here that it is true that lots of women are working from home, and how do we ensure that they can be safe at home? A few days ago, I wrote an article, Shoko, I don't know if you saw it, and I, took it from somewhere that I had read. I said, safe at home or scared at home, which is that our survey showed that at its peak of lockdown, the violence was at its peak, and there were many early marriage. However, when the lockdown was taken away, and men started going out to work or were migrating to other cities to work, the violence came down. So what does it mean that women are not safe in their homes? So that aspect. And now that both men and women are working at home, how do we ensure that they work in safety? So that is working at home in safety. That's another issue. But working in the workplace, even now that women are going to work, their work burden has not come down. So is the work environment sensitive to the additional work burden of women uh, that they have to take at home and also at the workplace? Are we sensitive towards that? As I said, and I say this often, that, when you run an office, you expect everybody uh, to be, you know, at the same level of performance, of efficiency, and that is perfectly legitimate. Everybody has to perform, everybody has to be efficient in an office. There's no doubt, men or women. But, sometimes I think that I expect everybody to come to my office at 8:30, all my male and female colleagues. But just think what a woman has to do before reaching office and what a man has to do before reaching office. And are we sensitive to that? I don't think we should compromise on efficiency. I think we have to be flexible. We have to be flexible about women's strategic and practical needs. That is what is expected. I'm sure that given the proper environment, a safe environment to work in, women excel. And women have proven it all over the world, and also in Bangladesh. We have so many role models in Bangladesh who have struggled and they have reached the top. How did they do that? We have to kind of think about it. Now, coming back to this whole issue of how does the private sector then promote gender equality and address issues of uh, violence against women, I think the whole thing lies in the attitude and in the brain. As I said in the beginning, that does the organization, does the institution believe in gender equality? Are they sensitive to the needs of women? Then are they really ready to go that one step further to create an environment where women are able to work in safety and security, be comfortable, and give their best? Because that is what we want. We want every employee to give their best, but are we creating the right environment for them to be able to do that? That is the question. Now, I think we have come a long way from where we were, you know, uh, and when I say that, I don't think only the private sector or factories or the private sector companies are responsible for having sexual harassment in the workplace. The NGO sector, other professional groups, everywhere there is this issue of sexual harassment that we have to address. Just because we work in the development sector, I'm not saying we are free from that at all. We are not. So this is something that we have to address every day of our lives, all the time, and that is to really believe in gender equality, really believe that men and women have the same potential to excel, to give their best. They just need the right environment to be able to do that. And with that, I will stop. I'm really, really looking forward to listening and hearing from our panelists. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shaheen Appa, for your wonderful discussion. And we will definitely get back to you. And I would personally thank you from Evolution 360 for being a role model, a guide, and an inspiration for all of us who are working in this field. Moving on to our formal session. Firstly, I would like to ask our honorable panelist, Ms. Sonia Bashir Kabir, who is an IT professional and one of the leading corporates in this sector. So, ma'am, my first question to you is, what is actually the scenario in IT industry? How much is the participation of women? And can you tell something about the ratio of men and women in your industry, ma'am?
Thank you, Poma. Firstly, thank you very much for inviting me. It's been indeed enlightening to hear Shoko and Ms. Anam. So technology, as you know, is a male-dominated industry, right? So the ratio of men is much higher than the ratio of women. And then there is a fear in our part of the world specifically, it is actually global, about women studying STEM. So sciences, technology, engineering, math, there is a little bit of an aversion to study that, which kind of restricts you for coming in from there to come into the profession. So we don't see a lot of women. We expect the numbers to rise as there's a lot of initiatives now being taken to encourage girls in STEM so that they, from a younger age, they do come. Having said that, even though we have less numbers of women, the problem still persists. The sexual harassment or violence against women in no industry, no vertical, no matter what the gender balance is free from this violence, right? And I'd just like to quickly share that what we are doing as a tech company, what we've thought is that everyone is working on solving the problem. But what I think if we could leverage technology to kind of just look at a study and see what is the cause, what are the consequences, and what are the costs, the 3 C's of any violence that happens in the corporate sector, document that and try to use artificial intelligence and like big data to see, are there patterns, are there trends? And then you incorporate those in the interview questionnaires. Because when we interview people or when we interview candidates, we're really looking for the most high performing candidate to join. We are never ever screening, especially in our part of the world, for if that person is an offender, has that person ever been treated for help? So these are things that are very important for us to be including, which technology allows us to now do that in a very less intensive way than we would have done in the past.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It's great to know such amazing initiatives, and definitely we'll get back to you again. Now, I would request our honorable panelist, Khorshid Anwar, sir. Sir, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Sir, as we all know, and we hear it a lot in our society, the stereotype regarding women working in the banking industry. So what is actually the scenario, and how do we see the ratio of men and women in this sector, sir?
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. So basically, in today's session, I'm representing the financial industry of the country, and I'm from Eastern Bank Limited, basically a private commercial bank. We are here for the past 28 years. And in our bank, what happens, we are basically emphasizing on gender equality, and we are giving equal opportunity for male and female while we go for fresh recruitment. And even right at this moment, our gender ratio is something like 80-20. So it's kind of like still it's a male dominated industry and male dominated area. But during recruitment, while we go for fresh recruitment or for any professional, or in that case, we basically do not look at the gender side. Rather, we emphasize more on the skill set and the experiences the person is having. And by that way, basically, we usually go for recruitment. So that's the scenario right at this moment in our industry, unlike other industries. So we will actually speak more into this into our session. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. It's really good to know you. We'll definitely get back again. Uh, I would request our honorable panelist, Farzana Chaudhary ma'am from Green Delta Insurance. Ma'am, as we know that this corporate sector for women is still a kind of social taboo or stigma for some people in our society, and women are looked down upon in many ways. So, ma'am, as an icon yourself in this sector, how would you actually explain the situation and also explain a little bit about your experience in this sector?
Very much for inviting me to this session. And I'm a woman activist, of course. And in this industry is 80-20. In our company is 2:1. As Shoko has mentioned, that women empowerment principle is one of the, I think, footprint and one of the important strategy that needs to be embedded. We have done. We're proud to be the first corporate to actually embed women empowerment principles into our corporate strategy. A few years to actually embed all the 7 principles. And this year, early this year, pandemic, we have published the first SDG report in the corporate sector. So that has actually been the commitment. So like everyone said, that women's empowerment actually is actually seen when you really engage women in an environment that is flexible for them, and if you are sensitive towards that, if you believe in it. So I believe that it's important to, and not only to actually create an environment, but also to walk the path. So for that, we have incorporated in into our systems, and it's actually WEP and SDG is actually it's become a beginning of our organization. Whoever joins goes through a process where every male and female both goes through a process where it's actually an environment where male and female both are treated equally. And we do also have, like Shahinapa has mentioned, it's very important to have a harassment policy. We have 7 responsibilities that of our HR, and one of them is actually zero tolerance for workforce harassment. So we have a harassment policy, as IFC is one of our equity investors. So that is one of the, I would say, strength of our organization, where women feel very safe. So that is very important, whether you are taking care of the flexible environment, like giving her safety, giving her security, giving her environment where the health can be taken care of, where we do give maternity leave, and we have a maternity policy, and we also give them health insurance for both male and female, and their spouse is covered, where they have the coverage is C-section is covered, normal delivery and also miscarriage is covered in that policy. So this is very important if you're actually giving a coverage for their family. That's important for our women as well, because when women talk about, when she talks about her work and her family, she talks about the complete segment in and where male only thinks about, that's the difference between a male and a female. I'm not saying that he doesn't think about the family, but women are more multifaceted and they take care of those segments. And one of the other area that we have covered is having a comprehensive insurance policy for women. That was the first in South Asia. That's why it was recognized at the UN in 2016, where it's not only a comprehensive policy, but also it is a powerful platform for women, where we are the facilitator in giving her the access to finance, access to healthcare, access to training, access to information, access to livelihood change, and access to decision making. That is very important, like access to social and financial independence for all the women. So all the years, last few years, we have gone through more than 130,000 women and changed livelihood of many women, giving them the security and the health, and where we have seen that factory worker has changed her livelihood and now became an entrepreneur by taking a bank loan. So this is something very important what we have seen, that whether we have created an impact. So it's not selling a product, it's selling a promise to their solutions. That is how we have taken SDG into our corporate objective, and that is, and we have leaned into SDG to transform into opportunities, innovation into outreach, and action into impact, leaving no one behind. I will talk
Excellent,
more.
ma'am. Thank you so much. It's so good to hear such amazing initiatives from Green Delta Insurance. Now, I would like to offer my next question to our honorable panelist. I would first give the floor to Sonia, ma'am, regarding, ma'am, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, all right. So, ma'am, my next question would be, what is actually the current scenario of corporate world in terms of women's safety? Like, how is the workplace, how much is the workplace safe for women, and what are the steps that are being taken in the IT industry currently?
Thank you. That's a very broad-ended question to answer from my level of expertise and experience. I know that it persists, but if I was to answer specifically in numbers, I cannot. I know that the corporate, we do have, its form of emotional harassment. It doesn't have to be sexual harassment. Harassment has many forms. It definitely exists. And then what in our culture, one of the things that I'd like to comment on is, in our culture, we're not taught to fight and complain. We're taught to, it's a cultural thing that I resent. It's like we're taught to tolerate a lot, and I think that needs to go away, because harassment sometimes begins from home with family and relatives and friends, and that is when women should be voicing it and fighting. So that yeah, sorry. So and then it comes to work, right? There, a lot of women don't voice it when they face it, and it's really important to do the name them and shame them, and that requires a certain amount of courage for a woman to come forward, because there's a lot of sensitivity and shame associated with coming forward. So in the IT world, because there women who come into the IT world are a little bit more courageous, because they've dared to kind of cross the chasm and study the sciences and embrace technology. We find that they're a bit more courageous and they are a bit more open. They're more friendly with the men. They're more open, and they actually do speak up when they feel that there is anything equitable in terms of being respected, or in any kind of emotional or sexual passes or violence. So it exists, but I think the technology world is probably at a bit of an advantage as opposed to the other parts of the industry, where the women, it's also about a power play. It's like if the man has more power, the women feel a little bit weaker, and they probably are a bit scared. They have their livelihoods to worry about, and and they accept a little bit more than they should. But in the tech world, when women come into that world, the power play is a little bit reduced. So these women have more strength to fight. And as I said, in our organizations, on all the startups that I work with, we do make sure that we have a zero tolerance to any kind of sexual harassment. But the counseling goes more to men than to women. We spend a lot of more time with men than with women, because we think that complaining is the after effect. It shouldn't even happen in the first place. So trying to deal with men and understand the psyche and explain, that's what we do. Thank you.
Excellent, ma'am. Thank you so much for enlightening all of us about the good works and good practices that the industry has been doing. With that being said, I would move to our next panelist, M. Khorshid Anwar sir from EBL. Sir, I would request you to highlight the good practices that EBL has been doing, or some steps that the banking industry has taken to ensure a safe workplace for women in Bangladesh.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for giving me the floor. In our bank, we actually have taken a lot of steps, and we are taking a lot of steps, and we are ensuring that the steps are being in place, and it is being practiced all across the organization. So some of the points that I would like to it's equal opportunity for women. That's number one. Then we do create values for our employees. We do not only ensure their employment, but we create value for them as well, so that they feel encouraged and they feel more empowered, so that they can add more value for the organization. Then we have got grievance management system, work-life balance, and we do have a anti-sexual harassment committee in place. Actually, this is being, in place for last couple of years, and headed by a female colleague of ours, who is basically a senior colleague from our leadership team. So she is actually directly reporting to our CEO, and if anything happens, that is being dealt very seriously, and we took actually zero tolerance for any kind of sexual harassment in our organization. So that's another bold steps that we are taking, and that is in place. And then we have got speak up policy, and we do promote that all across our organization, so that anybody can speak up anytime if they are basically feeling uncomfortable, or they are actually facing some challenges in terms of sexual harassment or something like that, so that they can actually speak up to their line manager, even to they actually feels too. So that's another area that we are basically heavily promoting as the organization, so that anybody can have their own voice and they can speak up right away. And we do have an employee wellness program, where basically we do conduct a lot of activities across the organization. Our HR team goes, since basically we do have branches all across the country. So we are scattered all across the country, and we do have female colleagues all over the country. So our HR team basically periodically visits all the areas. They actually have one-to-one session with all the female colleagues, listens to them, and find out whether they are actually having some problem or not in their workplace, and how they can improvise the whole ecosystem. So this kind of initiatives are always happening across the EBL. And we have a lot of female colleagues in our leadership team. Even in my team, I am representing retail and SME banking division, which covers majority of the human resource portion in my bank. And I do have a lot of female colleagues in my leadership team, starting from different sort of unit heads. We do have branch managers. We do have branch operation manager, RM. So a lot of females are working in my team, in our bank, and we are promoting them, no matter whether whether they are actually male or female. We don't look at that. Rather, we actually go for all the skill set and we promote them all out. So in our bank, through this system and through this all these processes, we are actually promoting the human beings, not only gender biased organization. We are not a gender biased organization. We promote all out, we promote equality all across the organization. So thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for wonderfully portraying all the good practices by EBL. I would request Farzana Chaudhary, ma'am. We have already heard some of the good practices of Green Delta Insurance. However, ma'am, I would request you to give some suggestions to all the financial institutions in Bangladesh regarding what activities or what steps they can take to make the workplace more women-friendly.
Thank you very much. I have mentioned a few things. I would like to just add more. Like we have a women forum in our organization, and interestingly, it's headed by a male. Why we have done that? We have done that categorically because to have an, to see women differently, we need to. This is something that we need to kind of. We thought it would be the best to actually best practice to see, because if you have a women head in that forum, everyone said, okay, it's her responsibility, her headache. So no, males participation is there. So, and it is actually reflected in their KPIs as well. So it's very important for a male to actually head the forum, and we have seen it was really good. It was really all the participants, and the co-chair was a female. So through that, we have resolved many issues, and we also have a harassment committee, And so sometimes what we have seen that even male comes, forward to see that whether they have been treated equally or not. So another thing is during pandemic, we have started doing the mental health. That is very, very important, because working from home now has become also. As Shaina also mentioned, it has become a kind of a burden, and also some create some depression. So having mental health training really boosts them up, the male and female both. And we have created, we are at Green Delta, a platform. It's an open platform where more than 300 employee can join, and we do some entertainment. We involve their family members to participate. So we have webinars, we have leadership training, we have entertainment program for their children. We have done quite a little bit of awareness program, awareness campaign for how to kind of come out, deal this depression and to work, efficiently. And working from home has, we have started it right before lockdown, so that people get used to this platform, and that has really helped. And the other one, to kind of when you give women a responsibility, that has to be a decision-making authority. This is, I think, head of HR only, or head of admin, or or other areas where they don't need to accelerate their decision-making power. So I think you need to bring in more female into business. Like Sonia has mentioned, in the tech world, women come with a lot of powers and a lot of aggressiveness. But in this financial industry, we have seen that many women, they don't come out of their comfort zone. So we need to kind of help them out. And Nivedita is one of the area that we kind of push them. Okay, you help them to come out from their comfort zone, create an environment so that they take this challenge and they talk about their harassment very, very openly. And that actually helps. So if you can give them some responsibility and treat them equally well in terms of performance. So that really kind of give better results. Like in our organization, 7 to 12% business revenue is actually generated by female employees. And this is it's in the recruitment, in the training, in the performance evaluation. So it's actually reflected in all the system. So it, like Sonia mentioned, that it has to be automatic. Like it cannot be, okay, people complain and then we take care of the things. It shouldn't happen. So this is all the financial institution, I think, if they can take women, not differently, but create an environment where they can perform better. This is something to understand female species. You need to kind of bring them in the zone where they can bring in their full potential, and they can bring out the best in the organization and contribute to the financial organization's economic growth, rather than only just being in the in a role where there's no decision making and just like working as a clerk. Thank you.
Exactly, ma'am. Thank you so much. That was really inspiring. And indeed, women need that extra push. And if given the right environment with right opportunities, they can definitely strive a lot more. So that brings me to the next question to our honorable panelists. So we all know that we are actually facing a pandemic situation since past few months, and we are now currently struggling to cope up with the new normal. And in this situation, we have faced some critical problems in our society, like domestic violence. Working from our home during lockdown has also created some challenges in the corporate sectors. And my next question to our honorable panelists is, how are they dealing with the new normal? And was there any kind of harassment or violence during the lockdown which they dealt with? So coming to Sonia Bashir Kabir, ma'am, first. Ma'am, you have the floor. Ma'am.
Thank you. I'll try to make it brief in the interest of time. So yes, there definitely has been overall an increased numbers of cases of domestic violence when the stress level is very high, the children are home, not going to schools, the husband and the wife, the extended family. It has caused a lot of stress, and I honestly don't know what is the solution because there is too many things that are happening at the same time. COVID has been a monster for everyone, right? But one of the things that we are trying to do is that everybody says we need to work with women and we need to counsel them and mentor them, and I agree that's important. But it's also very, very important to have these discussions with men. And I've noticed when we initiate these discussions with men about domestic violence, about sexual harassment, sexual violence, they're extremely uncomfortable talking about it. But they are the root cause of the problem. So I think that we really need to bring them on the table and have a conversation with them as to not really asking them why do they do it, but have a conversation is, why do you think this happens? Get it in the head of a man and try to understand why does it happen, as opposed to spending a lot of time on saying after it has happened what we can do to mediate the situation.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for your insights. Khorshid Anwar, sir, I would like to give you the floor.
Thank you. So I will actually talk about something a bit different, because it's all about awareness, and it's all about how we deal with this situation. In our country, what we have seen is like, it is not the violence, the domestic violence is not getting surface all the time, because in our part of the world, in our society, people are not that much proactive, or they are not talkative, and they are not actually much expressive about the internal things, their family matters to somebody outside outside of their home. So something is not actually the scenario is not always surface all the time, but we need to create a lot of awareness. We need to be very vigilant in the workplace as well as at our home, so that this kind of issues which are happening in our society can be bring into the in front of the people, so that this can be socially, this can be protected. Otherwise, this is something like if you do not speak up, if we do not talk about it, the problem will not get solved, and it will not surface right at the top, right? So in our organization, what we are doing, we remain vigilant all the time, and this sort of problems that actually we come across, we do not actually compromise with any of the problems, and we always practice zero tolerance for this sort of domestic violence or some which is being reported in front of our management. So from our management point of view, we are very much vigilant, and we are actually always with the women community, so that they are not being dominated all the time, and they actually gets equal right in the society, and they can work equally in the society. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Farzana ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, regarding the new normal, is there anything, the challenges the women are facing?
Yes, there were like few issues because when we started the work from home, many of them they've taken it very normally that okay because they can stay home. But after a few months, we have found out that they want to come back. So right after Qurbani Eid, that we thought of like opening the office also for the women also because we first thought that okay stay at home because they're taking care of the family and also the work. But we found out that they want to come back. And there are a few issues that we have resolved through our committee. And, because I fully agree with Sonia about that you need to bring in those men also on the table and to discuss. And, if you bring in the family members, it really helps. If you talk to the family members and they really feel that, okay, the spouse, their spouse is owning the organization and the organization is also owning the staff. So that's also helps. And I think going to the office also it's important. There are some issues arose for few females that they had to again go back to work from home and flexible working hours. We have also incorporated that so that it's a few of them they are working contractual basis. They have gone back to the contractual employees level from the fixed employee level, and then they've started working. So that's really helping. And the other, we have also found out a little bit of uneasiness or in the male segment as well. It's not only for female or male, it's actually a general thing. I mean, how to tackle these new normals, that's very important. And that's why we have these events in our online platform where everyone joins. Like this session is open to all the employees. They can come and join. It's a kind of a chat room where we talk to each other. There are sessions they can come and talk about their issues or see how they can improve. So that is very important. And mental health training really helped and still helping. And the session with the families, I think that is very important. So if you have, like we had Pohila Boishakh, we have Eid reunion. So that was really helpful that we could bring in some singers and some of the people that they came and showed magic, magic trick to the children. So that is how it really helped. So I think it's an ongoing struggle that we need to kind of actually learn by doing, learning by doing. I think that is very important, that every day that we learn, but this will never change. I mean, working from home also gives an opportunity for male and female to really have a environment that they can breathe in. They can have a flexible working hour and, and work accordingly, and they can be more successful, I guess.
Exactly, ma'am. That really helped a lot. And thank you for all the good initiatives that you have been taking from your company. And with that being said, I would definitely thank the honorable panelists from the bottom of my heart for practicing so many good things in spite of the pandemic situation to ensure a safe workplace for women. On this note, I would actually give the floor to our guest of honor, Shaheen Appa, to give a general overview about today's discussion, and also if you have any questions for our honorable panelists.
Thank you, Upama. Well, I mean, like you, I'm feeling quite inspired. But then this is what I expect from the panel who have come here, that they have, they have come to the positions that they are now in through a lot of struggle, and with an understanding about gender equality. However, I would like to say that women are not a homogeneous group in Bangladesh. There are many, many categories of women. And while, educated women like us have been able to negotiate a position for ourselves, there are, millions of women in Bangladesh who are very disempowered and who go out to work every day. So how can we make it better for them? How can we create a safer environment for them at home and outside, in the workplace and in public places, right? So that is actually our challenge. And you know, when I was working for Care Bangladesh long time ago, and it's an international NGO, when we started talking about sexual harassment, among our colleagues, they were just horrified. They said, no, 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 there's no sexual harassment in our organization, and we treat our co-workers with such respect. But when we created an environment where they were able to come and talk about it freely and safely, we heard so many stories. So there are so many stories in every offices, in factories, in places there that women work. And, they say, for example, if I talk about the garment industry, uh, our productivity, although women there are doing a great job, but when we compare to other countries, our productivity is not that high. And why is it? Have we been able to create that kind of environment for young women, so that they feel safe and give their best? And so it is in many, many other offices. So what do we do about that? As I said in the beginning, that it has a lot to do with the mindset, that how do we value women in our society? What place do we give them? There are millions of women in Bangladesh who will never go out and work, who will stay at home. But Shoko knows very well our campaign for unpaid care work. So shouldn't they also deserve the honor and the respect from at home and from society, because they are fulfilling a very important role. The whole care economy depends on them, but we don't give them the respect that they deserve. So whether it is in the workplace, at home, or in public places, creating a safe environment for all girls and women should be actually at the core of everything that we do. Only then, Bangladesh can progress. As we say, that without 50% of our women folk giving their best, Bangladesh cannot go to where we are, hoping it would. And I just want to say that the month of December is so important for us. It is the 10th was the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. There are so many special days, International Day for Disability. And then on 16 December is our Victory Day, which is such an important kind of milestone in our lives. In March, we are going to celebrate 50 years of our independence. What do we want to say? What do we want to what is our legacy? We want to make sure that each and every citizen in Bangladesh are able to live in dignity, security, and well-being, enjoying all the fundamental and basic rights. That is what we aspire for everyone, men and women. So women in Bangladesh are still in a disadvantageous position, but we don't want that to continue. For all women, not only women like me and Farzana and Sonia and Shoko and you, but for all women in Bangladesh. That is what we aspire for. That is what we dream of. So I'll just stop
Thank
here.
you, ma'am. Thank you so much for your inspiring words. And yes, indeed, that's the world we dream of. That's the Sonar Bangla we want, an equal, gender equal world for everyone. So we have reached towards the end of our today's session. And at the moment, I would give the floor to our honorable chief guest and request her overall feedback regarding the session.
Thank you so much. It's been really encouraging to hear about the different measures that are being put in place by the three representatives from the private sector. I think overall it talks about policy that you have, first of all, on zero tolerance. It talks about measures that you're taking for awareness raising of your employees. There was an emphasis being put by Sonia Madam about particularly engaging with men, male employees, to make sure that they are aware about the biases that they have and the discriminatory attitudes that perhaps they have, so that you can prevent harassment in the workplace and create an equal working environment. There's also good practices around mechanisms, committees that you have in place, measures that you have to encourage employees to be able to speak up with ease. And then there was also efforts that you are making around creating women's leadership, making sure that there are more women in management, so that they are able to also contributing to creating a more gender equal corporate culture. I think there was some mention about how you are fostering a female employees network, because that's also a sort of a safe environment where women can come together and collectively they could identify what other issues that they are having that they could bring to the attention of management. Wellness initiatives, taking care of the mental health of your employees, as well as ensuring there's family engagement, family programs where the whole of family are also brought into the picture of making sure that they also understand that they are sort of bigger part of the corporate family, and they have a role to play also. I think there was something very good mentioned about how, for example, the Green Delta Insurance has it in the KPI of managers that they also have to contribute to gender equality in the workplace, and I think that's extremely commendable. One thing that I would mention is that I think we should continue to self-reflect and self-assess our workplace. From an employee's point of view, of perhaps if an employee is struggling, I think it is, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, but sort of statements around, well, my company does not discriminate, my company is gender equal, already sort of shuts the door for people that perhaps are struggling to be able to speak up. And so I think we need to always keep room for improvement in our work. And that's the same with the UN. And I think Shaheen also mentioned that you know, in CARE, when she was there, they had a reflection process. Within the UN, we are supposed to be the ones that are pushing for these human rights principles. We are supposed to be perfect in these areas, but we are far from perfect. We have unequal gender balances in our workplace. We have sexual harassment in the workplace. And until and unless we acknowledge that and try and keep on working with that, I think we leave our employees behind, and we are not creating a safe environment. So that's something that I would ask for. Make sure that we are always keeping in mind that there may be discrimination in the workplace. There may be employees that need support, and providing that support. I think the number of, for example, there's 20% of women and 80% of men in the workplace tells that something is still not there, right? We are in a world where the female are excelling in university education. They are excelling in the academics. So if you talk about their skills and capabilities, there shouldn't really be a huge difference. But when it transitions from school to work, somehow there is a huge divide that is created. So that is within our institutional systems. We have unconscious biases. There are biases around recruitment. I don't know what your recruitment panels look like, whether your hiring panels are gender equal also, or whether it's an all male panel that is talking to a female candidate. I think we still need to continue to look at these areas. And with that, I leave words of those who have not signed up for Women's Empowerment Principles. Please do. We have lots of material that you can look at, what it entails. We have self-assessment tools where you can take a look at all of these 7 principles, how your company is doing, and then you can use that as a benchmark also to put some action plans into place. It doesn't cost anything for you to sign up to the Women's Empowerment Principles. I hope that it will somehow be beneficial for you in a way to be able to say you are a signatory to the Women's Empowerment Principle, and also communicate to your industry peers about what you are doing, to also encourage others to do the same of the good work that you are doing. So with that, I thank you very much for giving me this space to talk. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shoko, for your wonderful words. And yes, exactly. We are hopeful after today's discussion that there will be more signatories of WEP, of UN Women's We Commit campaign from Bangladesh. And the workplace, although there exists a lot of inequality, still we have a long way to go in terms of creating a gender equal workplace. Yet we have a ray of hope. We have come a long way, and we do have a long way to go. And with our existing panelists, like one of the inspiration of IT industry, Sonia Bashir ma'am, and a leading icon of corporate world, Farzana Chaudhary ma'am, and also a real life example of he for she, Khorshad Anwar sir. So with leaders like you, I hope Bangladesh and the corporate industry has a long way to go, has a lot of things to achieve. So I would heartily thank all of you on behalf of Evolution 360 and Manusher Jono Foundation for finding your valuable time, some time here, and gracing our today's occasion. Thanks to all of you for joining today's session.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank
So
you,
we're
everyone,
really
for joining.
grateful. And
thank you.
yes,
Thank you.
thank you, Appa.
Sonia, Farzana, Khurshid Sahib.
Thank you, sir.
Take care. Stay well.
So with your permission, we would conclude today's session here today. And I expect all of you to stay with Evolution 360, and hopefully in future also we will come up with some new ventures and new campaigns, and see you all there. And I would like to thank all the viewers and all the participants who signed up for this webinar, and definitely the whole team of Evolution 360 for staying throughout the process. And yes, thank you all. See you all in the next episode. Till then, take care and stay blessed. Allah Hafiz.